Hello everyone. So today we are going to discuss how to create a paused reality media content wherein you can provide the end user a controlled simulation environment wherein the simulation is not simply running in a linear fashion where it is going end to end and the user has to pause the simulation. Rather, it is a predefined set of events where the simulation pauses at a given interval and it starts again as desired at a point as per the required content. So, how we are going to do that? I'm just going to give you a quick overview of that. So, what we are going to do over here is this is basically the dashboard page of my uh, post reality media. So if you remember, like we can access the content either from library. So my library has entire set of content, and either or apart from that, the content can be also accessed from the project page, right? So in the project, you know that a project can have a multiple model. So let's start first, then I'll come back to the difference model uploaded from the library and the difference between the model uploaded from the project, right? So we'll go back. So firstly, what we are going to do is that we are going to go to the page of paused reality. So the moment you are onto the page of paused reality, you're going to select create paused reality. So let's say I'm going to create a paused reality on uh, double fertilization, right? And I'm going to select the subject. I'll select the grade, and I'm going to select the curriculum and the language. Once this is done, I'm going to select the 3D editor. So the moment I click on 3D editor, I am onto the dashboard of the paused reality media. So here what we are going to do, here there are two things which is mandatorily needed to be uploaded. One is the 3D model and another is the audio. So currently I'm going to add a dummy audio, right? But apart from that, you can also add an audio which is having a predefined or a pre-recorded set of events as per the requirement of the topic that is being covered. So first I'll add a 3D model. So I'm going to add it from library, or you can add it from project. So what is the difference between a 3D model being added from a library or a 3D model added from a project? I'll explain you that also. So currently I have opened, I already, if you see over here, so I already have a project over here which says demo PRM, right? And this has got different 3D models which are pre-added, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to select the 3D model, which is my requirement. I'm going to add this 3D model. Now, if you see, the moment 3D model appears, it is in a particular configuration. So if you add a model, a 3D model from the library, it will always be in a predefined orientation and a configuration, right? But if you want that once your 3D model appears, it should have certain orientation like this, or you want one of the petals to have a different color. So how does that work? So in that scenario, what you can do is that if there is a predefined conditioning need to be done to for a 3D model, for that purpose you can add the 3D model from a project. So let's say I want the model to be loaded in this particular format, so I'll just update this, right? I want one of my petals to have a different color. Just for this particular scene, I want this petal to have a different color. So I'll do that and I'll update this. So now what is going to happen is that if I re-upload the model from the project, so it says that it may lead to data loss. So currently we haven't done anything, so there is no data loss as such which is going to happen. So if I re-upload the same 3D model from here and add it over here, now you can see the changes which I defined in the project is reflecting here in the post reality media dashboard as well. So the difference between the model being added from library is that it will be as it is the way we have added, and here you can make custom changes to the 3D model be added over here. Now one important thing over here is that this 3D model is animated in nature. So if you see over here, if I move this, so this is basically a simulation over here, right? This 3D model is a simulated 3D model where we are showcasing this sequence of event happening of how the double fertilization happens and the process of that happening, right? So this is a linear sequence happening, but how are we going to control it in a phase by phase manner? That we are going to understand through this video, right? So after that, I'm also going to explain you all the different tools and how we are going to use it. So next I have is the audio. So currently what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add a dummy audio over here. I will not be adding an audio which discusses about the process happening. So currently I'm adding a video audio which is of 54-second, a dummy audio. I'll just add it over here. So the moment the audio is added, if you play this, so your the background. So currently the audio is a dummy, but if you are using an audio which is having the description of entire process, so it will help you guide to define the points or the time frames at which certain events are defined. So let's see what are those. So firstly, I'll take you through this camera animation, camera keyframes. So what is camera keyframes? Let's say I want that at the moment my timer reaches at 6 second, right? The moment my timer reaches at 6 second, I want the 3D model to be in this particular orientation. So how am I going to do that? I'll go back to 0 second. I'll Okay, so I'll go back to at 0 second. I'll select the camera keyframe, and I'll click on camera keyframe. 1 second. I'll go back to 0 second, and I'll define the position that I want at 6 seconds. So I need this position at 6 second. So I'll go and select this button over here. The moment I do this, you can see that the time frame is locked. I want that particular orientation at 6 seconds, so I'll define that 6 over here, right? And I'll save over here. The moment I save this, let's see, I'll refresh this page and let's see what happens. So my model is automatically reorienting. At 6 second, I reach the particular frame of the 3D model which I need at 6 second, right? Now, along with this, if I want any other events to be triggered, it can be done. So I'll take you through all the events one by one. So this is already defined. So at 6 second, my camera orientation is going to be this position. Now, let's take it one step ahead, right? And let's assume that after this sequence is initiated, I want the components to be extruded apart in this particular frame. I want this components to be extruded apart. So what I'll do is that I'll select this lock button. So basically this lock button locks the keyframe whichever I select at that particular time frame. So I'll click on this. So the moment I click on this, you see at 6450, this sequence is locked and I want it to come back, let's say at 8 seconds. So what I'll do is that I'll undo it, and the moment I undo it, this comes back. I'll lock the time frame and I'll go here and I'll define that at 8450 it will come back to its original orientation. So let's replay this and see how it happens. So currently both the keyframe events are happening separately, right? But if you want that both of them should appear simultaneously, so let's say my camera animation is ending at 6 seconds, so but I want this parts moving apart to happen a little earlier. Even I can do that. Let's say I define that I want this to happen at 4 second, right? I want this to happen at 4 second and it ends at 8 seconds. So I'll save this again. So multiple events can happen simultaneously. It's not that it can happen in a linear fashion, that if from 0 to 6 second only this event is triggered, then the drag or the extrude trigger event can't be triggered in that particular frame. So let's see this. Now, coming back. Now, let's say I want that the moment this thing is happening, the moment it takes 6 seconds for the model to rotate, at 4 second the drag or the components moving apart starts. But I also want that at 2 second. At 2 second, I also want the one of the component to get a color, particular color. So I'll do click on this. Let's say I want certain color, so I can choose a different color. So I want this to be given a particular color, and I want this component to be given a different color at 3 second. Or let's say if I need any other particular time frame, I can click on that as well. But I have selected 3 seconds, so I need to lock that. So I'll give different colors again, right? So I'll click on this. I'll lock the keyframe. So at 3122, it will get this color as well. Now let's say I want it to go away at some other time. So I want the colors to go away at 5 seconds. So I'll save this. Now I'll refresh the page again and let's see how all the keyframes which we have defined. One is the camera keyframe, second is the drag keyframe, and third is the highlight or sorry, the color keyframe that we have defined. How are they going to function together? So what we have learned till now is that how my camera control, how my mesh control or the components moving apart control and the color control can work together, right? So we have seen this. Now what we'll do is that, let's say my animation as per the background audio which is going, or my the sequence of event that is happening till 9 second is already defined now, right? So let me play it again. Let me play it again. Now at this point, I want the model to rotate back and give me a front view again. So at this time frame, I want the model to rotate and give me this front view again. So what I'll do is that I'll go to the camera keyframe and I'll again define the position which I have already taken, rotated and defined the final position, and I'll lock this again. Now I want this, that it's this keyframe starts at 98690, and I want this to happen in 3 seconds. Let's say I want this to happen in 3 seconds. I'll define this. So let's see how it happens. So the model is going to come back to its normal position after the animation is completed. So this is done. Next, what I want is that now in this frame, I want to give the user, the end user, a more clear picture. I want certain elements to be removed, right? So what I'll do is that I'll use the slice keyframe. What does slice keyframe do? It removes the certain element. So I'll simply keep one of the petals and I'll remove rest of the elements. So I'll just lock this. I'll lock this now at 18 second as per the background audio which is going. At 18 second, I want them to come back. So I have undo, all the components are back. I'll lock this keyframe again. So what is going to happen is that I'll just define 18 over here and I'll save this, right? Let's play this again, how it works. So at 18 second, all the components are going to come back. Now let's do one more thing. So we have defined that at 18. So basically my slicer tool initiates at 13 and it closes at 18. But I also want that when the components have just gone away, so it went away, the component went away at 13, but I also want that at this particular point, I want a certain camera animation to showcase, give me a particular view. So I want the camera, while this is happening or while the component has gone away, I want the camera animation to also happen, and I want that to happen in 4 seconds, let's say. And I'll save this. Now let's play this again and see how it happens. Now again after this, I want the model to come back to its original position. I'll go back, I'll set it, I'll again add it. I want that this thing to happen in, let's say, 2 seconds. I'll save this. So we'll play it again. Meanwhile, we'll move ahead with other tools. So while this paused reality content is playing, if you see over here, at any point as it is playing, whichever animation or whichever keyframe is getting triggered, that gets highlighted. So as per the different tools, whichever keyframe gets triggered, it gets highlighted accordingly. So quickly moving, so we have covered the camera keyframe, we have covered the object keyframe, we have covered the slice keyframe, we have also the isolate keyframe. So what does isolate keyframe does is that, let's say at after this, till this point, I just want only this to be present or any particular component to be present, even I can use that. It is very much similar to the way we have seen in the 3D models, right? So the isolate keyframe will also work in the same way. So I'll just discard the changes movement. Now I'll come to the main part, which is the animation of the 3D model, right? So let's say from 0 to 24 second, I just need certain model configuration movement, right, where I'm showcasing a different component. But how do I trigger the animation as per my convenience? So if you see the seek bar over here, the simulation, the 3D simulation over here shows a certain sequence of event in a linear fashion. But let's say I want that at 25 seconds, certain 25 second, I want the simulation to get triggered, but only for 2 seconds, and then I want to pause it for 5 seconds. So how do I do that? So I'll define that at what point I want my simulation to trigger. So see, you see in the simulation, if I bring it close, if I bring it close to just to give you a view, if I bring it close, so sorry. So if you see how the simulation is getting triggered, it starts like this: some particles coming from the anther and falling on the stigma, and then after that there is a pollen tube which is being generated. So initially, instead of entire simulation getting triggered at one go in a linear fashion, let's say I want to have it in a particular manner. So how do I do that? I'll refresh it, everything, I'll start again. So simply I'll jump to the time frame at which I want to do it. I'll go here, let it run in a linear fashion, then we'll go to that particular time frame where I want the simulation to get triggered. So with this time frame, all my keyframes have been triggered. Now coming to the animation keyframe or the simulation keyframes, specifically speaking. So how does this get triggered? So here what happens is that, let's say at 25:9:21, I want the simulation to get triggered. So what you can see is that this is play button, this is pause button. So I'll just click on play. So the moment I click on play and the moment I click on this button, lock keyframe, so the animation is going to start, or the simulation is going to start at 25:914, right? And I'll just click it again and I'll play it. So I'll let it move ahead and I'll define a time frame where do I stop it. Now I want to stop this thing. So this is already in a pause mode. So I'll lock the keyframe over here. So my start of the animation and end of the start of the simulation and end of the simulation have been locked together. So I'll just save this. So let's see how it plays from here. And after that, let's say, okay, one second. Let's play this once and then we'll see how it looks. Meanwhile, if I also want to have a camera animation, let's say, meanwhile, I want a zoomed view of this particular scene at this point of time, even I can do that as well. So I'll just store this and I'll show it in the next review. Anyway, I'll play. I have this thing already defined. Now, let's say I want the animation. So, for example, let's say it ends at 39, but I don't want anything to happen till next 2 3 seconds or 4 seconds, right? So, I'll just select a time frame. So, again, I'll just select this time frame, and at this time frame, I'll just go back to the position where I had just last stopped, and I'll click on play again, and I'll lock this keyframe again, and I'll play this again. I'll stop it here and I'll lock. Now it is again in pause mode. So I'll lock this keyframe again. So this is locked. So how is my simulation going to play? It is going to start at 25. It is going to stop at 39. And then from 39 to 44, it is going to be in the static mode. So in that duration, the end user or the teacher can pause it and do the necessary explanation, and automatically it will start in the next 44 second and it will go till 48 second, right? After this, let's say I want it to start at 49. I'll click on play here, right? And I'll play this play button again. Sorry, let's first play this and see how the results are till the point we have created. So animation is triggered, you can see, and it is going to the simulation is going to play till 39 seconds. And we had also added a camera motion. That camera motion is going to be visible here. Simulation has paused. So let's say at this point of time, if I want to add a panel to it, even we can add that. So I'll do that once it plays for 90. So it paused again here. Now after this point, let's say I want to start it again. So what I'm going to do, so it pauses at 48. I want to start it again at 50. So I'll click on this, it will be in the play mode. I'll click on record. The moment this thing is initiated, the record is initiated, I'll play this and I'll start it again. I'll stop it here, and it is already in the pause mode now. I'll lock this keyframe. So in this way, I have played the simulation in one, two, three different sets. So it is you who is controlling that where does my simulation starts, where does it end, and for how long will it pause in between. Right now, what we'll do is that we'll add some keyframes. Meanwhile, I just want to do one more thing. That at this point, I want the camera orientation to change. So I'll go here, I'll go to the animation keyframe and I'll lock the camera keyframe, and I define, let's say I want that camera keyframe motion to happen in 3 seconds. Slowly, if see the main purpose of this tween camera or the time frame which I add is that how long will the camera take, how long will it take for the model to reach that particular orientation. So the longer is your tween camera duration, the slower will be the camera rotation. So here I have added to 3 second, right? Now finally coming to one of the most important tool in the post reality media, that is the label tool. So we'll take you through that and explain how we can customize the label using text and using image, and how it can be used to enhance the overall quality of the content which is being created. So let's play this pause reality content once again. So as you can see, all our predefined keyframes are in order, and the entire post reality content is running as per that. We have also predefined the simulation control where it stops and runs as well. Now we'll just come to a time frame. So I'll take one time frame. So for example, I'll take this time frame at 25 second where I'm going to add a label, right? So what we are going to, so here we have a very good view of the overview of this 3D model. So what we are going to do is that we are going to place in order to place a label, I'll just do it again. So in order to place on the label, we go to this on this panel which has a written on it and click on the plus button. It's very much similar like the selection creation or the selection of the label is very much similar like the way we do it on portal, Perceive portal. So here once we click on it, you can see the label has emerged over here, right? So what we are going to do is that firstly I'm going to add some textual information. So let's say I want to add a certain detail about the ovary of this 3D model. So what I'm going to write is I'm going to define the title. So what if you see over here, if I click on this, here I have only the title. So my label can have title as well as description. My label can have only title, and description can be either an image or a text. So we'll initially go with a text based description, right? So if I don't, let's say if I don't want any description to be added, I can do one thing is that I can simply uh, So currently, one thing. So before we go ahead, so if you can see that this label is placed in a three-dimensional space. So you can move around the label, you can define the position, you can move it forward, backward. If the label is very close, you can redefine the size of the label. So for example, currently I want the label width to be 3 and its height to be 1. So moment I click on update, it rearranges. You can see it is getting curved over here. So for that, I have this setting of border radius. I'll update the border radius. I'll make it to, sorry, I'll make it 0.2. So the moment I do this, it is getting updated. Now if you see, if I don't need, so now you can see that this is added. If I want the uh, text to be updated in the center, I can click on this, right? Description is coming, so I don't need as of now, so I'll just keep it empty, right? And I have added this text over here which says ovary, right? I'll add a few more things. For example, I'll just select this and I'll click on update and I'll add ovary. So the text size is currently 0, so I'll make it 1. The moment I click on text size, it is 1 is too big, so I'll make it zero point 0.5. So once we have done, now you can see that I have only added a label which has only the title. Now let's say I want to add an extra information with the description as well. So I'll go here, I'll select text. I'll firstly redefine the size of the panel. So I'll make it a little big, right? I'll make it 1 and 1.5 and I'll update it. Now the panel size is big. I'll go and copy the text which I have already done. I'll add it over here and I'll click on here. Now you can see that it is not adjusting in the given size of the panel, so I need to readjust the panel. I'll make it 7. I'll make the height 3. I'll update it. So these are very much standardized tool. Now I need to increase the spacing between the text and the description, so I'll make it zero point 0.5. So the moment I do, you can see the spacing is come back. I'll re-update the size of the text font size. Right now you can see that this panel has come up. I'll just reposition it. I'll move it a little back, so I can move it in the three-dimensional space. I can move it a little back, right? I'll just save it over here. I'll place it in this way. So the panel changes are very much standard, right? I can define a lot of things. I can define the padding. So let's say if I increase the padding, you can see how the text is getting reoriented over here, right? If I, and here I can define for how long the panel is going to stay. So if I say that the panel is going to stay for 2 seconds, so in this particular scene at 25, the panel will get initiated and it will stay for 2 seconds. Once I have made all the changes, I'll click on update. Here I can also define the font color. Here also I can also define the panel color. Let's say I want certain other color to be added for the panel, I can do that as well, right? So for example, if I need a red panel, I can click on red panel. So those changes can be done. So these are very much standard editing tools which is there. I'll save it and I'll move to the next type of panel, which is the image base. So let's play it and I'll reach a particular type and enable the image based. So many a times you might see, like, since there are minor glitches, so many a times whatever keyframes which you have enabled over here might not exactly reflect. So for that purpose, you need to always for review and edit and recorrection, you can always view the model in the preview mode. So I'll just show you how it looks in the preview mode. So here I want to add a panel, let's say with a image. So what I'll do is that I'll click on the text keyframe. I'll select over here. Now this is in. So since this is very much close to us, so the for the given configuration of the aspect ratio, it is very big. So I'll just readjust it. I'll make it 3 and I'll make it 1. Let's say, or I'll go to the panel. I'll enable. So I don't need a text, a title or not. It depends upon us, right? Let's say I need an image. I'll upload an image. I'll go there and I'll add one image. So you can see the aspect ratio of this particular image is somewhere between, it's almost like a square, right? It's almost like a square. So you have to make sure that the panel which is being created is also like a square so that it is able to adjust it. So now you can see that it's not able to do it, right? So what do we need to do is that we need to redefine the panel size. So let's say I make it 4 and I make it 4 and click on update. The moment you do this, it is able to adjust it in the given frame, right? So you can also make sure that like it is not a perfect square, so you can make some minor tweaks again to kind of make it fit. Now overall, the panel is too big for my 3D model, right? So first I'll do the placement of the panel. So you can readjust the size. Let's say I make it 2 and I make it height also 2. So I am trying to maintain the aspect ratio of the panel, right? So it will be able to take it. Now since the panel is small, it has become a circular, so I'll just go there and I'll update the border radius. So any user who is basically who has a good design understanding will be very effectively able to use these tools. So these are very much standardized tools which is there, right? So we'll adjust the position of this. Now let's say this is my final position, or this is my final position. I want to redo the panel size again. I want to make it 3, and I'll make it 3 again, and I'll update it. I'll also update the duration for which it comes. Let's say I want it for 2 seconds. I'll click on update and I'll save this, right? So this is how my entire panel thing is done. So what we'll do is that we'll preview the entire post reality media which we have created in the preview mode and see how all the panels and all the keyframes that we have captured, how it appears in the final preview. Sorry. So here we have chosen the audio for each particular user. We have pre-recorded audio aligned with the entire 3D model, and now the simulation is running. It will be more appropriate and more to the point, and it will be more explainable for the user. So you can see we have paused the simulation over here, and it restarts at. So in the previous mode it was not due to some glitch, but here in the preview mode you can see things the way you have defined, and you can now you just saw that here the panel is too close. So what I can do is that I can just go back and I can redefine the panel position, and I can redefine the or the size of the panel. So those things can be very effectively done over here, right? So this is a quick overview, a full-fledged overview of how a post reality media can be created and how we can control the different keyframes, either camera or slice or highlight, and how we can control the simulation by pause and play and define the time frame for which appears. And during the preview, and one very important thing, so during the preview, at any particular point, whenever at any particular point when the post reality content is being played, the user can simply go to that particular keyframe, and they can just play it the way they want, and they can also define or they can do the necessary explanation at that point. So this is a quick overview. Thank you.